What's up, Game Boys and Girls? Big T here, back with another video, and this video is about one of my all-time favorite games on one of my all-time favorite consoles. Not one, but the all-time favorite console, the Nintendo 64. And that game is the illustrious Jet Force Gemini. Yes, you guys may have heard me talk about this game over the years, how much I love it, how much I feel like it's underrated. I think it's super underrated, super underappreciated, and we're going to talk about it here. At the end of this video, if you looked at the video outside, you're like, oh my God, it's like an hour. I'm guessing it's going to be around that long. The rest of this video will be, after my commentary, will be just kind of footage of me playing the game itself. I'll edit it to make it as, interesting as possible, but I just wanted to have some footage to show, just in case you haven't watched or seen the game before, played the game yourself before, how fantastic it is. So let me just pull up the game here itself. I have it right here, and here is the box for it right there. Get real close in there. Jet Force Gemini. Fantastic game. I remember when this game was first revealed. I remember my reactions to just thinking it would be awesome. It's a sci-fi game about slaughtering aggressive bug people, and this is a couple years after the movie Starship Troopers, so there are definitely some influences of that movie if you haven't seen that movie or not. But here's the card itself. There we go. Let's see if we can focus here. Focus. It's not going to focus. All right, I'll just do it right here. And when I bought the game, back in those days, like in the mid to late 90s, they were really pushing the strategy guides. And so people talk about like DLC and stuff that makes games cost more today. Back then, it was like really trying to push the strategy guides. And I remember you would get like a discount if you got it, when you got it, if you bought it when the game came out. So I'll show you mine here. This is my my day one strategy guide right here. With the game itself, and this is by Prima. Prima made some awesome strategy guides. Like Nintendo Power had their own as well, but I always thought the Prima ones were better as far as like the pictures and the, let's see if we can show you here, the detailed maps and all that kind of stuff. And I just thought the quality of the pictures were better. This is probably not going to translate very well here. I'm trying to find an area where they show like the maps or whatnot for the levels. I can't find it here on the spot. But yeah, the layouts were like more detailed to me, and the quality of the pictures themselves was a lot better. Maybe if I go to the front here, I can see more. Not really. But anyway, you can see it's a nice big glossy layout. They just look better to me than the Nintendo Power ones. Or any of the other ones that would come out, the unofficial, whatnot. But this one is an official strategy guide. Some of them were unofficial. I have a few of those, but this is officially licensed. And like I said, they would put these things out, and they would be like, they'd be, trying to sell the strategy guide as the game first came out, and they'd give you a discount if you bought it like that day. I remember going into like, was it Blockbuster Games, or I used to go to Software Etc., not around anymore. It was kind of more of a PC kind of store, but they did a lot of video games because at that time PC games weren't as big as they are today. They still had a pretty big audience, but to subsidize some of the business they could get, they put just kind of console video games in there too. I remember like going in there and getting that strategy guide along with my copy of the game that I pre-ordered, of course, and I felt like I got a t-shirt or something for it at the time, but I don't remember. But yeah, the game is phenomenal. So yeah, let me move that. But yeah, just to tell you about the game, if you haven't played it, it is a, like I said, sci-fi kind of shooter game, action-adventure shooting game. And if you know anything about Rare, one of the things I liked about Rare, especially on the N64, I think you could say it probably started with Donkey Kong Country and the Super Nintendo, but especially on the N64, Rare basically, when it came to Nintendo, basically made the kind of Western version of like Nintendo games. So Donkey Kong Country, per se, was like their version of a Super Mario game. Basically Super Mario World that was out on the Super Nintendo, and so Donkey Kong Country was Rare's rendition of a Mario game, a Super Mario game, and then you get to something like Diddy Kong Racing, right? So Diddy Kong Racing was their rendition of Mario Kart, specifically Mario Kart 64, although it was pretty close when it came out. But I'm sure Rare was privy to what was going on with Nintendo, and they just wanted to make their own kart game using Nintendo characters from the Donkey Kong series and some of their own. And so there you go with that. And then obviously something like Banjo Kazooie was their take on Super Mario 64. That was their 3D, major platformer, and so on and so forth. And so at many times they rivaled Nintendo on the N64. That's why they're so beloved by Nintendo fans who were fans of the N64 specifically. They rivaled the output, the quality, music, and whatnot with their games that Nintendo did. And so that's why that rumor started, where there was some kind of animosity between like EAD and Rare. It was probably just a rumor, but you never know. It could be some truth to that rumor. But I think it was debunked at some point. But you never know. And then Dinosaur Planet. You guys see me talk about Dinosaur Planet before, which became Star Fox Adventures. But Dinosaur Planet basically was their take on Zelda. So specifically Ocarina of Time. Dinosaur Planet would have came out 2 years if it had reached its release date. It would have came out 2 years after Ocarina of Time. So Rare just kind of did that. That's what their thing was. And I remember reading forums back in the day, and forums were awesome back in the day. Before the internet became tainted with social media. It was just like fans, speculating and like rumors going crazy. And I distinctly remember I could not find it. I wanted to. If I do find it, I'll talk about it later. But it could be completely long gone. But there were rumors about Rare making their own take on Metroid, and and the rumors bled into Jet Force Gemini, and I feel like there's some truth to that because Jet Force Gemini, they have like the bug doors. You have to take out all the enemies. That kind of feels like a Metroid thing. You have to take out all the enemies. Obviously, bugs. If you know anything about Metroid, Super Metroid, there were a lot of bug-like, xenomorph-like characters, creatures, enemies in those games. So it makes sense for Rare's version to have again, bugs, but also base it on the movie Starship Troopers. Like I said, there were some similarities there. But yeah, so that also piqued my interest in the game because I remember reading that. I don't know if it was just a rumor on a forum or if it was like some kind of leaked information or something about it. But if from what I remember reading, Metroid was the emphasis, the kind of inspiration for Jet Force Gemini. Some of the gameplay. If you think about it, there's some very Metroid-like stuff going on. As far as, like I said, if you play Jet Force Gemini, you'll know what I'm talking about. When enemies will pop up when you go to a certain area, a bunch of enemies will come up. You got to take them out before you can move on. There is a lot of backtracking, and we'll get to that when I talk about the game more. But it was like it's not just going to an area you went to before, but also Metroid style, where you go to. You get a certain power up, or you could use a certain character to get to stuff that you couldn't get to before in areas that you already passed through. And you'll see that in the gameplay. If you stick around for all the gameplay, you'll see what's going on with that. But basically, that's what it felt like to me. So you have your protagonists, Juno, Vela, and Lupus, the dog. So Juno is the brother, Gemini, It's supposed to be twins, right? So they're like a twin, like a space force with the dog. And so there's Juno and Vela, who are the twins, and they're based on constellations. If you know anything about astronomy, astrology, and well, both. And Lupus, their dog, also has abilities. His abilities is floating. I believe Juno is being able to swim and deal with like extreme heat. And Vela, what is her? Why can't I remember what her ability is? Juno also gets like a jetpack as well. Why can I not remember what Vela's ability is? I haven't played the game in a few years at this point. I just restarted it recently, which you'll see in the footage. But I just remember, like, right off the bat, the music is amazing. It's like orchestrated. Is that how you say orchestral? Not that MIDI stuff. Very like bombastic kind of orchestral sounds and music and whatnot. The soundtrack is definitely amazing. The graphics at the time were amazing, and you have the typical thing where the Rare is a little bit over ambitious, so there is some frame rate drops. Usually when there's a lot of like effects on screen, and Rare didn't miss when it came to like doing cool effects in their video games during the N64 era. So that was fantastic. But man, the game is just amazing. The vibe of it, it doesn't feel like anything else Rare had done at that point. It felt very different. Actually, thinking about like something like Dinosaur Planet, the original, not Star Fox Adventures. I mean, I guess there's obviously some stuff in Star Fox Adventures that kind of feels like I don't know if it was the same team. I feel like it was, but I'm not sure. But it kind of feels like stuff you found in Jet Force Gemini. And I remember distinctly that it was more chibi, like the characters were actually literally shorter looking. They looked like little kids running around. And Miyamoto was like, well, no, what are you doing here? Make them more mature, make them older characters, because it didn't really fit. He felt like it didn't really fit. These little kids running around blasting bugs and they're blowing their heads off. I think he thought that was a little weird. Partially was the reason why he thought they should be aged up. So they aged them up, made Vela more sexy, and made Juno more, mature and macho. And they did a little kind of, character to redesign with Lupus. Nothing too crazy with him, the dog. But fantastic game. I love the fact that you'd be traipsing through the same world with different characters, but because of the character's certain abilities, like I said, I can't remember what Vela's is right now, but because of the character's certain abilities, you'll be able to go to different areas you couldn't before with a different character. And I think that, actually, no, this was the same year that Donkey Kong 64 came out. So I don't know if these teams were talking, because you can do stats kind of similar. But it went crazy when it came to Donkey Kong 64, where you had to like use every Kong for every different item. You had to use, let's say Donkey Kong, he could only collect the yellow stuff, the yellow colored things, and Diddy was red, I think, and every character, had to collect their own stuff, and that's where it went crazy. But with a game like Jet Force Gemini, fantastic the way they set it up. Because you are going different areas, and characters were specific to one certain thing, not the same items. They all collect the same stuff. They all collect or save the little bear creatures. The little bear, I forget what they're called. I want to call them teddies, but that's from that's what the teddy bear characters are called in. Thank you, Google tablet. That's what the teddy bear characters are called in Conker's Bad Fur Day. But I can't remember what they're called. The tribals. Tribals, that's what it is. They're kind of a take on the cutesy Ewoks from Star Wars. They were directly, pulled from the idea of them. And so, yeah, the game is fantastic. Beautiful graphic. I remember just being blown away by the graphics. I would sit and just look at the texture work back in the day. Obviously today it's no big deal, but back in the day I would remember just there's like a hall that you go through. It's like you have a glass kind of encasing area. You walk through this hall and you can see just like into outer space. That stuff. I would just stand there. I would just stand there for minutes and just watch the outer space area of that, the transparency of the glass. That stuff just blew my mind in '99, and this was after Dreamcast came out. But yeah, like, fantastic game. And so your characters are all kind of singled off. You have to use one character to find another one because in the beginning, Vela is kidnapped, or she's held captive, and this is not spoilers or anything, but she's held captive, and you have to like release her. I think the ship is called the SS Anubis. You have to release her, and then that way her path can open up, and you can just kind of go back through the same planet that Juno was on and go do her stuff on that planet. It's completely separate. What she does. I mean, she starts to go off where he is, but there's different areas for her to go to. And same thing with Lupus, the dog. Once you go through and find them, you can do that. And then you all meet up together on the planet midway through to face off against the main bad guy. But you can't get to him. This is kind of spoilerish, but we're talking about a game that is 30... What is it now? 1999. Not 30 yet. 26, 27 years old. That's when the game came out. So, again, I'm not going to spoil any of the story beats or anything like that. But this is one of the big contentions with this game. Is that, I don't know why I was going to reach down here. Where is the game itself, actually? I just forgot where I put it. I mean, I can't have put it too far away from me here. I'm right here. Well, here's some visual aid for you right there. Here's the game. Yeah, so you get, I want to say midway, almost midway. Like you're going into the third act, so it's a little bit past midway, and you realize that you have to save every tribal. I'm telling you this now because this is actually helpful for you. So if you've been missing it, because you're not forced to save the tribals in the beginning, the teddy bear characters, and nothing tells you that you need to save every one of them. There's a guy that says, please save my friends, but he doesn't emphasize you got to save every last one of them, because you need them for one character to give you a special item so you can get to the final boss. And there's no other way to do it. You have to save everybody. So you got to go back and backtrack and go through all the levels. It was a shock the first time I did that. A lot of people said that they quit the game at that point. They're like, there's no way I'm going back. But you're doing so much different stuff. It feels like you're doing, almost a new segment to the game. Should they have told you up front? Probably. I think they probably should have, instead of shocking you at that moment, because you're like ready to go beat the game, go handle the final boss. And they're like, oh no, if you want this thing so you can get to the final boss, then you have to save all my people. So that was kind of shocking, but again, I was in it, man. I loved it. I didn't love the fact that that happened, but when I went back, it was cool because it was like all this new stuff I didn't see before. The tribals, they're not crazy hidden or anything, and that's kind of where my strategy guide came into fruition here, because I had beat everything, quote unquote, beat everything in the game, got all leveled up and all that stuff. I think there was some more leveling up you can do, but not much. You can get some new capacities for your weapon carrying, but that's where my strategy guide came in, and that's what I used to do back in the day. I wouldn't use a strategy guide to play through the game. I know some people did. I would beat the game or almost beat the game and say, all right, now I want to 100% this bad boy. So I would go back before finishing the game and do all this stuff using my strategy guide. And so I got every nook and cranny piece of content out of the game as I could, and I enjoyed that quite a bit. So it was also part of my journey. I was going to do this anyway, so now I got to go back and find all the tribals. And finding the tribals is not an easy thing. Some of them can be a little bit hard to find, but another thing is they can die. You can accidentally shoot them. A lot of times there'll be like kind of mini boss characters standing near them, or like explosive barrels around them. And if you shoot that barrel, they're dead. You have to leave that door and start that section all over again. That happened to me a few times, not too many crazy times. Like I said, there's segments where the tribals are in certain spots and you can't really get to them. You got to know how to get to them without triggering the character to shoot them or something. I feel like there's at least one area where you go in almost like 007. There's a segment when you go in, you're playing that game, 007 GoldenEye. And you gotta, yeah. So I think it's on the frigate. If you go into an area, you gotta save people. But if you don't save them quick enough, the bad guy will shoot them. And so you have characters in the game, certain bug types who will run over and try to kill the poor tribals and make you start over again. And I don't think it was too hard. I mean, again, I was using a strategy guide, but I think I could have done it okay without the strategy guide. But it definitely helped me. So man, what a fantastic game though. And I feel like it's super underrated. Not a lot of people talk about this game specifically when they talk about Rare and N64, their golden era. And I don't know why. I mean, it came out later in the N64's life. Like it was like, I want to say late 99 it came out. And maybe people had started to move on already. People were thinking about the PlayStation 2 at that time. That was, being, blasted out there. The Dreamcast had already dropped. Or actually, the Dreamcast dropped that fall. So maybe that was another thing that took away from it. Same time this game came out, the Dreamcast did its thing. Maybe it just kind of got a little bit drowned out. I mean, it sold over 1 million copies, which was still very good for the N64's install base. But it wasn't, it didn't do as big as the other Rare games did that came out, 2, 3 plus million, 5 million. I think Donkey Kong 64 did. So it gets forgotten sometimes, and I think one of the reasons was that kind of like gotcha moment where you have to go back through the game and get all these tribals if you hadn't saved them. But it was also just the timing of it, I think. I think that year Perfect Dark was actually 2000. So its numbers were softer also because people had almost completely moved on to the next generation at that time. Perfect Dark is still beloved, still more beloved than the than Jet Force Gemini, which is one of my favorite games, not just of the N64, but I think of all time. And it's a series that I wish would come back in some capacity. I think some of the team members went on and made this kind of weird game, and you can see some aspects of Jet Force Gemini in it with the little bug creatures you fight in the game, but that's basically it. It has some of the feel because of them, but the game's kind of jank. Not a great game. I'd probably a 6 out of 10 type of game, 6.5 out of 10. But yeah, like it's a fantastic game. I highly recommend it. Some people also had issues with the controls because it would when you get around certain enemies, it would go into a pseudo kind of not first person, but kind of close third person where your character would go transparent and you can see through them, and your control would get a little bit weirder at that point. And there was nothing you can do about it. It was like an automatic kind of thing, and it would happen a few times, but then it would jump out and you'd be back in your third person kind of mode again. So maybe it needed a little bit more polish on the controls, but I got used to them pretty quickly, and the N64 was kind of perfect. It was designed for the N64 controller. So when I tried to play it on like Xbox Live Arcade, because it's on there, trying to use the Xbox controller, it just doesn't work the same. It doesn't feel right. And what can I say? It's a fantastic game, fantastic music, visuals. And the areas are so good. You go from like, you go from this vibrant kind of planet with greenery and beautiful vistas and blue skies and whatnot, to like dankness of a kind of a battleship, to like a swampy area that's straight up horror based. Like you see like zombie creatures. It's fantastic, and it's hilarious sometimes too. Just the way the AI reacts, really good AI. The weapons are amazing. The tri-rocket, one of my favorites. Just never enough ammo for that thing, but man, fantastic. It's just a great game, and I love it to buttons, to pieces. And I guess I wish everybody could get a hold of it and experience it the way I experience it. I know that's kind of hard to do today with people's kind of modern sensibilities when it comes to gaming and controls and whatnot, and visuals, performance. But fantastic game, and you should definitely check it out. So if you want to, please stick around for some gameplay of the game, but also make sure you hit that subscribe button. I am trying to get do more videos and to turn this into what I do. It'd be great to turn YouTube into what I do for a living. So I'm trying to slowly get there. So if you want to support by hitting up the Patreon, there's links in the description below. If you want to support by becoming a channel member, that's also great. Just watching the videos, sharing them, and all that stuff is also fantastic. Do whatever you can to support me. I'm trying to, like I said, make this make this a bigger thing, make this a life, because I have this, I have all this knowledge, and I have all this gaming history, and I want to share it, and it'd be wonderful to do that without constraints. So yeah, so that's my video. Hang around, like I said, watch it if you want to see some cool footage of the game, and thanks.
Forest World. Liberate this once peaceful planet from Mizzah and his evil drones. Colored gems can be collected. These will increase your health. Beware of Mizzah's soldier drones. They remain on Goldwood in great numbers. Though weak, they often travel in groups. Don't be caught off guard by sniper drones. They use the treetops as ambush points. Pick them off using manual targeting. These crates contain ammunition. Collect them to increase your supplies. Across the level you will find the tribals. This bear-like race has been enslaved by Mizzah. Free as many tribals as you possibly can. When you have completed your objectives, find the takeoff pad where your ship awaits. You are now one step closer to Mizzah's lair.
Yeah.